when you're starting to teach online, and I mean with something like recorded, you're going to notice something fascinating starts to happen. Your recorded material does the work for you. It shares your message. You can time it to come out when you want. You can include actions you want people watching the video to take. And that might not sound like very much. Like, oh, you can get people to take the actions you want them to take. What is that, right? If you're a yoga teacher and you're thinking, yeah, I want to teach yoga online, why do I care about having a link at the end of a video, right? Well, what it comes down to is, first of all, you need to know what you're going to help people with. Then you have to remember that when you put a link somewhere, that link could literally be anything. Now, when I say that, again, that's not really like, what does that mean? Well, a link could be to a booking page to book a time with you to talk about a certain action you're talking about in the video. It could be to send in some homework by submitting a form and attaching a document or a link to a document. It could be a link to another video, the next video in a series of actions you are teaching someone. It could be a link to a shared document that allows students to fill out a template or a worksheet that you have. So these kinds of actions are very important, and today I wanted to share a little bit about the transition that I went through creating one of my courses, and what it was like the first year versus the second year. So first of all, this was not my first course. I had a mini course before, and I tried a few other options that failed. So third or fourth time's the charm. But I've learned some important lessons. So first thing I did was I was recording videos in batches. So I would have a chapter that would explain a concept, like how to use a certain platform, or how to identify your niche, or how to set yourself up for teaching yoga online by Zoom classes. Different things like that. So what I would do is I would record the videos all at once, usually super early in the morning, when not only is my house quiet, but outside in the neighborhood are quiet too. You won't really appreciate this until you try and record something that includes silence, and then you'll realize that there's a dog barking and a plane going by and a car horn honking and a million other things that you just kind of filter out when you're doing your day-to-day life. Anyways, so what I would do is I would record a bunch of these in the morning. Sometimes it's me, face to camera like this, explaining something. Other times I'm sharing my screen and recording it so that I can show people what to do, right? Especially because, all these spider webs around here. When I film these videos in the morning, there's all these spider webs from the night before. So I'd film videos explaining, like direct to camera like this, or recording the screen explaining something that they need to do. And then what I would do is I would save those, obviously you save the videos, but at a later time, usually after I'd gone to the gym or I had some time in the afternoon, then I would edit the videos. And the reason why is because recording can't be done anywhere, anytime. You need to be somewhere quiet, and it needs to be quiet. But video editing, you can just put your headphones on and edit wherever you have space at any time. So that's a huge advantage. That was one thing I really learned. Another thing that I was doing was, whenever a scenario arose where a student needed something, or they had questions about how something worked, or they reported a problem, in that moment I would immediately jump on it and start fixing it as best as I could. Sometimes it'd take a day or two, but for the most part, I'd be pretty on it. And you know, you're going through this and you want to give it your best shot because your student just signed up. And by the way, when I was doing this my first year, all throughout the year, I was signing up clients and I didn't have my entire course filmed, edited, or published. I had portions of it, but not all of it, not even close. And the beautiful part about that is you can actually delay content to come out. So you don't have to have it all ready by the time the student signs up. You need to have it ready as the student goes, but not as they sign up. So just remember that point. But as your students are coming in and you're sharing things that, or they're sharing things with you, you want to be doing those things in some kind of automation platform. For me, I use Zapier. I'll talk about Zapier later, but it's a platform where you can basically say, like, if this happens, then do this. So for example, like I talked about earlier, if a student books a call with you, right? Now think about when you book a call, you put your name, you click the time, maybe you put your time zone, you might answer one or two other questions, right? Each of those questions is in a separate field. And that means that the answer to each of those fields in a form is an individual piece of data that can be used for something else. So if you book and you put your first name and your last name and your email and some other custom questions, the answers to those questions can be sort of copied and pasted into other actions. Like if I had a student, if a student was booking me for private yoga classes and I said, you know, describe your contraindications in one field, and they did, and another field said, you know, tell me about which asanas you want to work on the most, and they did in another field, then I could have a calendar event created and put those details in the description, something like that. Or I could email it to myself, or I could save it in a spreadsheet so that I could track the answers that multiple students give me over time and gather that data, right? So you want to build out these automations, or what I did was build out automations based on wherever the student was and what they were going through. Part of it I did have planned out myself. Like, oh, I want them to do this and I want them to do that in this chapter, and they need to send in certain things. But but another part of it was, you know, based in the moment, I wanted to do it including student feedback. So building things as you go, particularly automations, is extremely powerful because you can't foresee everything. You can't understand what every student's going to want before they sign up, right? Once you have a lot of students, you'll get a much better idea. But I spent a lot of time building automations and taking feedback from students to understand how to build my systems. So that was huge. And, you know, I had to spend a lot of time figuring it out. I spent a lot of time angry at the platform as I learned things by myself. I spent a lot of time researching, sorry, mosquitoes coming out. I spent a lot of time researching in different like platform communities, contacting platform support, you know, trial and error. It was a lot, but now I'm very confident in Zapier. I know the kinds of things that it can do, and it's very easy for me to go in and do something quite quickly, right? So a lot of that was just taking student feedback and incorporating it into my automations. And the reason why was, like, in the moment, you could be like, oh, it's just this one moment. Why spend all this time building this huge automation? You know, it might take days when you could just do it manually and get it figured out in a few minutes. Yeah, absolutely. Except I kept signing up students and they kept going through the same process, which meant if they were going through it and I didn't have an automation, then I was manually doing it. And I think those are probably the two biggest things. Like, record content as you go and listen to student feedback to build your automations and your systems and your platforms. Because one of my buddies, he told me when I was first struggling with this, he's like, dude, you're trying to build a whole platform or a whole course first, you'll never get it done. There's always going to be some little bug or update or thing you want to tweak, add, fix, whatever. And it's just procrastination. You're never actually going to launch if you wait until the whole thing is done. Plus, you don't know where the people who sign up are going to be coming in from. You don't know, you should have an idea, but you're not going to know exactly. And so you could pre-build this whole course and then sign up someone and it might be misaligned, right? So especially when you're first starting out, it's a good idea to have a little bit of content and have a direction and a focus, but not have it all completely filmed as you're just starting, and allow yourself that wiggle room to adjust as you go along. So for example, if you were doing a course on how to do handstands, well, you might come from a place or a mindset of teaching certain things at certain times. And while you need to use your judgment on the fact that you know how to do something, and there are best practices or methods for doing that, there's also the component of factoring in which students are signing up and where they're coming from and the rate that they're working at, So it needs to be this combination of the two. So that was super helpful. So first year, lots of video recording, lots of video editing and uploading, lots of feedback from students, and then using that to build my systems, because I knew that if one student is going through this, chances are at another time, another student will go through this. And I don't want to have to build the automation then. So I built it in the moment. Okay, now second year. So second year when I'm doing this, I'm noticing life is a little bit easier, right? And this is one of the reasons why I wanted to run a premium online course, is because the material recorded explains the theory, the tutorials, right? The stuff I don't want to be repeating every single time a new student comes on. What I want to be doing is helping students go through that process, helping them to understand it on a deeper level, helping them to get over whatever blocks they're dealing with in the moment. And that's the work I'd rather be doing than, what's a niche? There's the train again. So that's a powerful shift. Now, in this case, because last year I did a lot of the filming, there's still a few things I want to do and add, but 99% of it is there. And what I can do, I'm just gonna let this go by. So now this has really shifted, because when it comes to course material, mostly now I've had enough feedback from students during the first year that I don't get that much feedback now on things like being broken or students being something not working properly or confused about what to do, because I took that feedback when I first was building things and incorporated that. Sometimes it was just a note in the description of the video. Hey, at this time, this is what I mean. Easy. Other times I'd have to update a link. Other times I'd have to add a video. No big deal. But this is really important, because think about teaching group yoga classes. Once you teach a group yoga class, it's done. You don't get paid anymore. You have to regather the students again. You still have to go to the place again. You still have to spend time again, right? I film a video, spend the time to edit the video and put it in a platform, and it keeps working for me over and over and over, sharing my message over and over and over. providing instructions, you guessed it, over and over and over. And this is huge because now this year I've spent a lot less time on course material production, automation creation, right? Making automations that run for me. I don't spend that much time doing those things. Most of the time I spend now is creating content and connecting with prospects. Prospects are people who are interested in what I'm doing, but may not be on board yet. And I still do spend a decent amount of time growing. So that is a thing. Like, what happens is when you build material like recordings and automations that work for you in the background, that frees up a lot of your time. Now, I'd say probably 10% of my time goes to maintenance, minor tweaks / updates. You know, for example, an automation goes, is working, right? I mean, when you build an automation, it just keeps going. So like every time a student sends in a piece of homework, that homework automation says, hey, a student just sent in this form. Which student is it? Let's look them up by email. Oh, let's find their spreadsheet. Oh, let's take today's date and put it in a certain row in this spreadsheet so that we recorded that their homework has been completed and sent in on this day. That's super, like, now think about that. If you've got 20 or 30 students, that's 20 times you don't have to do that. Times multiple different actions. Yeah, you know, that's crazy. So maybe I have to do a small tweak or update. No big deal, right? It's a small fix and I'm good to go. So those things are pretty much there. And now the second year, I'm more focusing on social media content, right? Because the more you're putting out on social, the more traffic you're drawing. The more traffic you're drawing, the more people go through your systems. The more people who go through your systems, the more people book calls with you. The more people book calls with you, the more clients you get. The more clients you get, the more value you deliver. The more value you deliver, the more money you make. So social media content production is really one of the top things, and it's a lot easier to do now that I'm not spending as much time creating material for my course or trying to figure out automations. You know, like, that's just not as much stuff. And what's even crazier is that my time spent doing those kinds of things, like social media content, creating automations, or, you know, new one-page websites or new emails to go out to people at certain times, those things actually take significantly less time, right? Because when you build an automation in Zapier, they have a function where you can duplicate it. So the structure is just copied, and then you just punch in the details. Maybe you're updating a different spreadsheet. Maybe you're sending an email to different people. Maybe, you know, like, there's going to be lots of things where you're like, hey, this is the same process. It's just a different form or a different piece of information. And that can be extremely powerful in your ability to quickly grow and update your systems, right? Same thing with one-page websites, even normal websites. A lot of platforms give you the ability to just duplicate, right? So for example, on my workshop, I have a registration page, and you need to register, and, you know, people want to read about the workshop before they register. Now, say I want to test another version, I just duplicate that and make the change I need, you know? But again, and that one-page website explains what the workshop is about and what action I want people to take, and I just need to make the updates, which I just recently did that. I updated my free workshop, and to do that, I duplicated the original, made the changes, and then uploaded the video into my video hosting platform, and then updated a couple of the pieces of information on my registration page. Like that, I mean, it sounds like a bunch of actions, but when you factor in that I didn't have to write the whole thing again, I didn't have to build and connect everything again, I didn't have to do all the like color setting and stuff again, or the copywriting, or adding the images, right, or the videos. Those things are all just there already. And even if I did want to go through all my systems and update that, the amount of work that it would be in proportion to building it all from scratch again is a huge exponential return. Like, the amount of work is tiny and the benefit is huge. So this is a big mindset shift. And the second year, even with social media, I can take pieces of something I've shared in one post and go deeper into it on another post. I can take a piece of content I made for one platform and repost it on another platform. I can take the exact same material and just change the cover image on my carousel and maybe update the title and post it again on IG, right? I can cover the same topic in a video that I've covered earlier, but just in a slightly different way or in a different depth, or not. Maybe it's a super short version, you know? This is the power that comes with teaching online. And it's, when I say teaching, I mean like teaching people a transformation that goes beyond just repeating what the techniques of yoga are. Show them how this can be done and how it can be used to achieve a goal that they have. That's when yoga becomes more meaningful. And it's going to take a little time to figure out, but I promise you, you can impact people's lives. You can connect deeply with students online. You can help them make the changes that they want to make in their life online. It's much more possible than you think. It just means getting started. If that's something that you're interested in, I'd love to help you out. I have a free workshop in the link in the description. And in there, you will learn how you can work online, even if you love teaching in-person classes. Great, there's room for both. I'll show you how you can use social media to your advantage to get more students, work with more people, and make more money. I'll show you the 4 tools that you need to enjoy freedom as an online yoga teacher. Whether you want to travel and try new foods all the time, or spend more time with your family, or just enjoy less work, or just do this as a side hustle, or do it full time. The structure I show you in there can be used for all of these, right? I have a family. We recently moved from Turkey to Sri Lanka, and I use this as my full-time income, right? So it's totally doable. And I'll show you how you can use systems to scale up your earnings online and make this a real thing for you. If you'd like to learn how to do that, there's a link in the description down below. I'd love to see you there. There's a free workshop if you stay until the end, or a free certificate if you stay until the end. It's Yoga Alliance approved. And I've got a couple of worksheets that you'll receive for going through. One worksheet to help you find your niche, and another one to help you get clear on your vision for what you're doing as a yoga teacher. All right, thank you so much for watching. Like, subscribe. If you have any questions, post them in the comments below. I'll see you in the workshop.